Well, the Sony RX100 Model 5 is a great camera for shooting video or for vlogging. It's small and it's light, it has a flip-up screen, and the handheld stabilization's pretty good. It has a wide-angle, wide-aperture lens that works well in the dark, and superb autofocus. There are picture profiles to manage difficult lighting situations, and it also includes a bunch of features for slow motion, along with other effects. To be great, it would have the mic input, and 4K video wouldn't be limited to 5 minutes. Well, here are my recommended video settings for the RX100 Model 5, but most of these would work for the Model 4 as well. Turn the mode dial to the movie position. Press Menu to make adjustments to the camera's settings. There are some good reasons to use 4K, which I'll get to in a minute, but for most production, particularly vlogging, I recommend HD and 30 frames. Dual Video records a second low-res version for quick upload to social sites and when Wi-Fi isn't available. For vlogging, use continuous autofocus with wide area. Turn face detection on. I've registered my face. When multiple faces are detected, I get priority. Steady shot should be on. I use active. When it's really bumpy, I'll use intelligent active. Set movie mode to shutter priority. I'll explain when to use manual in a minute. Audio recording is on by default, but worth checking, and unless it's a loud concert, normal is good. I like to turn on the rule of thirds grid and position myself on one of the vertical lines. For vlogging, I set the Finder monitor to monitor, otherwise it can switch if something comes close to the viewfinder, but I typically leave it down anyway. Outdoors, I set monitor brightness to sunny weather, that makes the screen much more visible. Gamma display assist should be auto. I like the confirmation of the start and stop video record noises, so I leave audio signals on, but turn it off if you need. Before shooting, I always format the card, after making sure I've backed up whatever was on it. Then, I set the exposure. In sunny weather, turn the ND filter on, off for indoors. For stills, the Mark V does this auto, a function that's not available in movie mode. Use auto white balance and auto ISO. I'll explain why you might want manual in a minute. Turn the dial to set the shutter speed, lower left, to 1/60th. And you're ready to go. Let's go back to some of those topics we skipped over earlier, like 4K. The issue with 4K is that recording time is limited to 5 minutes, that the camera tends to overheat quickly, and that only standard stabilization is available. The nice thing about 4K is that an image can be cropped and adjusted in post. Even a 200% zoom has no loss of quality when output to HD. And I find that a 4K resolution image down-res to HD is actually nicer than native HD. Set the file format to 4K and use 24 or 30 frames at 100 megabits for best quality. Auto white balance isn't always accurate, and sometimes creates subtle color shifts which can make editing more difficult. Custom white balance can't be captured in movie mode, so switch to M. From the white balance menu, select Set, press the center button to capture, and again to store. That's better. Don't forget to switch back to movie mode. Remember that a custom white balance is only valid for a very specific lighting situation. And remember to switch back to movie mode. The same applies to auto ISO and auto aperture, which can also create subtle changes that wreak havoc with your editing. To take control of these, change the movie setting to manual. For ISO, press the Fun button and adjust to a setting that looks right on the screen. But when using the sunny weather setting, it might not be quite accurate. Press the top of the multifunction dial where it says DISP to display the histogram, the black box with the white stuff. The white stuff should be kinda centered. If it's too far left or right, adjust the ISO, but you can't see both on the screen at the same time. Change the aperture by pressing the bottom of the multifunction dial to adjust the F number. Smaller numbers will blur the background, but may let in too much light, even indoors, so turn on the ND if needed, and then make ISO adjustments to compensate. There are two ways to get slow motion. I recommend you use the HD 120 frame 100 megabit mode. Make the adjustments to slow the footage down while editing. At 30 frames, 1/4 speed can be created without requiring imaginary frames. This mode has audio. For even slower, use HFR, which is lower quality, is limited to a few seconds, and has no audio. It's a setting on the dial. HFR modes can record from 24 to 60 frames at frame rates from 240 to 960 frames, so that's from 4 times to 40 times slow. There's no time-lapse in the firmware, but this is a smart camera. You can download and install Sony's time-lapse app for $10 US. While you're there, download the advanced remote, which is very useful when you want a shot that's farther away. One more thing, picture profiles, and this is all about personal preference. This scene is shot in default, picture profiles off. I like a slightly more cinematic look, so I make a few picture profile adjustments so the image looks like this. I start with picture profile 4. Select Gamma, Cine 1, turn saturation down to -2, and detail down to -4. For color, I use either Cinema or Pro. For darker interiors, I change Gamma from Cine 1 to Cine 2. It's interesting to play with Profile 7 with the S-Log2 Gamma setting, which can be very useful in bright situations, particularly if you're in the shade. But it does require some post-production work, color grading, to create a usable image. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the field below. I do read and reply to all relevant and civil questions.